So we're first going to talk about adding with like signs, which is a nice way to start this lesson. Adding with like signs. So hopefully this part will not be too tough because it's something that you are very comfortable with. So it's, like I said, a nice way to start. Okay, here's the problem. Negative 1.7 plus negative 1.2. Okay, what operation is going on between these two numbers? There are two numbers. What's the operation, Nick? Addition. So you're adding this number with this number right here. You're adding them. Do these two numbers have the same sign? So that's why I call it adding with like signs, which is, again, hopefully the easiest one to do. Okay, there is something I'm going to require you to do, and this will help you out in the long run. It might seem tedious, but please do it. I first want you to estimate. And you can just put EST, and it doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to be long and hard. I just want to see what you're thinking about these numbers, because a lot of people are just like, I don't get the number. Well, help yourself out. Okay, estimate by rounding. So what would negative 1.7 round to as an integer? Yes, sir?
Negative 2.
Negative 2. What would negative 1.2 round to as an integer? Nick?
Negative 1.
Yeah, good. Negative 1, and you're adding them, right? So this would be a simpler version of what's being worked out here. What is negative 2 plus negative 1? Negative 3. Okay, that's what we would get if we estimated. So when I work this problem out, what should my answer be approximately?
3. Negative 3.
Negative 3. If your answer is positive 3, after you did this estimation, what do you think about your answer? It's wrong. Like, you can pretty much say that is not correct. Or things like negative 10, negative 5 even won't be too close. Okay, guys, when you are adding numbers with like signs, here's the rule. And this is something you need to write down. Add the, and here's something that I hope you remember, the absolute values. Now, that doesn't mean you have to make it a new problem, but you need to add the absolute values of these two numbers. And then the second step, then keep the same sign. And I could technically say, and then keep the same sign of both of the numbers, but just keep, what's my answer going to be, positive or negative?
Negative.
Automatically negative. But this is what you do. And even in my notes I did this. Please remember that. Don't forget it. It applies to any two numbers with like signs when you're adding. Add the absolute values and keep the same sign. Okay. You guys have that down in your notes? Okay. I'm going to change panels in just a moment. All right. I'm going to rewrite the problem, but you don't have to. I'm just doing it so I can show you my reference point. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add these two absolute values, and then I'm going to keep a negative sign, right? Okay, what's the absolute value of negative 1.7? 1.7. What's the absolute value of negative 1.2? What do I do with these two numbers? I add them together. When you're adding or subtracting decimals, what must be true? Please don't forget this. And now it's like the maybe 5th year you've heard this. Yep.
You bring the decimal down.
Okay, bring the decimal down because you line them up. You line them up. Okay, 7 plus 2? 9. 1 plus 1? 2. What's my answer?
2.9.
Negative 2.9. What was my estimate again?
3. Negative 3.
Negative 3. Is negative 2.9 really close to negative 3?
Yeah.
Then my answer makes sense. It's reasonable, right? Okay. That's how I add decimals with like signs. Okay. Let's go to another problem here. So I'm done with this problem. Let's go to negative 2 1/9 plus negative 7 1/3. So we're adding. What are the two numbers we're adding? Negative 2 1/9 and negative 7 1/3. Let's estimate. Real quick estimate. What does negative 2 and 1/9 round to? Negative 2. What does negative 7 and 1/3 round to?
Negative 7.
Negative 7. What's negative 2 plus negative 7? Okay, should my answer be around or close to negative 9?
Yes.
Okay, that really will help me out. And I'm telling you right now, let me give you a practical example. I was working out one of your problems. I got the estimate. I got my answer. I looked back at my estimate, and I was like, oops, negative. Does Mr. A sometimes lose track of the negative sign?
Yes.
You know what can help me with that?
That.
The estimate. That's this is easy, yeah, negative 9. So then I work out my problem. Oh, don't forget the negative. Okay, these two numbers are two numbers with like signs. So what do we do with these two numbers? First, add the absolute values. So I'm going to do it the vertical way, which I think is really the easier way of adding two fractions or mixed numbers. But you may want to do it horizontally. Just work it out the way I am here for now. Okay, can I just add these mixed numbers just the way they are?
No.
Because I do not have, like denominators or same denominators. Okay, what is the LCD of these two fractions? So what's the least common denominator? 9. So I'm going to leave this one alone, but what do I have to do to this one?
Over 3.
Oh, by 3 over 3. Yeah, 3 over 3 because I want to multiply by 1. So it's just my little bit of work I'm going to do. What's 1 times 3? 3. 3 times 3? 9. Now I can add or subtract if I wanted to those two fractions. What's 1/9 plus 3/9? 4/9. What's 2 plus 7 now? Just add the whole number parts. 9. What's my answer? Negative 9 and 4/9. Oh yeah, it is negative. Is that pretty close to my estimate? And I did this in my notes. Does that look pretty good? Does that match up a little bit? So you can kind of help yourself out with that. The hardest part about this problem is this little part right here, I think. Because we don't like doing this. We don't like doing all this extra work. Save yourself some heartache. Just do this little bit of work. Get the common denominator and then get your answer. Don't stress out too much about that. Just do it. Nike. Sponsored by Puma. Okay. Please, I have to delete that now. Okay. Adding with unlike signs. So we just did with like signs, and I'm thankful we started off that way, but unlike signs get people tripped up a lot, especially with decimals and fractions. Okay, let's get our first problem here. 1 7/8 plus negative 3 2/3. What a nice problem to start this section with. Okay, estimate. Let's just estimate the answer. So 1 7/8, what would that round to as an integer? 2. Negative 3 2/3 would round to about negative 4. What's 2 plus negative 4? Let me do something right here to maybe help you out. Okay, in order to do this, some of you are like pretty automatic. Like you, Mr. I could do this real quick. But in order to get this answer, didn't you do this? Listen carefully. Didn't you take the bigger number, the bigger absolute value 4, subtract 2 to get this right here? And then didn't you keep the negative sign because this absolute value was bigger? Isn't that what you did? Maybe you did it quickly. You're just like, boom, you just did it. But that's what you're doing when you slow it down. Guess what we're going to do on this problem?
Same thing.
The same exact thing. It's harder because there's so much going on, but same exact thing. Okay. So here's the rule. I'm going to write it down, then we'll work it out. For adding with unlike signs, this is what you do. Subtract. I'm going to write this out and then explain it with the example. The lesser absolute value from the greater absolute value, comma, because there's one other step. Notice these problems have two steps. Subtract the lesser, what? From the great, what? Okay, what are you talking about? Which one of these two numbers, so in my estimate, which one of these two numbers has the greater absolute value?
4. Negative 4.
Yeah, this number has a greater absolute value. Remember, what's the absolute value of 4? Negative 4?
4.
What's the absolute value of positive 2?
2.
Which one of those is bigger?
4.
The negative 4 version, or the 4. Okay? So don't you do 4 minus 2? You get this 2. And then the second step, which I hope you can see here, then keep the sign. How would I finish that off? Keep the sign of the greater. I'm just going to put greater because I don't want to bog this down with terms and make it too overwhelming. Keep the sign of the greater, and then maybe you want to put A, B, V, A, L, absolute value.
I'll put AB.
You could do that. It's allowed. You say of the greater absolute value. Yesterday we talked about absolute value, right?
Yeah.
So yesterday, okay. And hopefully you guys did well with that. Why do we talk about absolute value before adding and subtracting? It's because it's really important here. Like, that's how you do it. Okay. All right, once you get that done, I'm going to actually work out the problem. Everyone get good with this? I think so. All right, I'm going to rewrite it for my own sake. 1 7/8 plus negative 3 2/3. Okay, so according to those rules, what subtraction problem am I doing to figure out this answer? What subtraction problem am I going to do? Anyone know? So, okay, Michael, go ahead. It's okay. What?
3 2/3 minus 1
3 2/3, the greater absolute value, minus 1 7/8, the lesser absolute value. Okay? I'm doing that. And then we're going to walk through that subtraction. Which sign am I going to keep? Sir? Which sign should I keep? Sorry?
Wait, do you mean for the denominator?
No, like in my answer, which sign am I going to have? Positive or negative?
Negative.
Negative. So although it doesn't look like I'm going to have that, I will in my answer. It has to be there. Okay. Can I subtract these as they are?
No.
No. I have to get a common denominator. What is that common denominator? The smallest one. 24. So the LCM of 3 and 8 is 24. So I'm going to multiply this one by 8 over 8 and this one by 3 over 3. Right? Is that what I'm going to have to do? Multiply by 1 in those specific versions. So make sure you write that down and then give me what's 2/3 times 8/8? 16 24ths. What's 7/8 times 3/3? 21. Yep. This is where, okay. Let me tell you this right now. You're not always going to have to do this next step that we're going to do together. A lot of you should be writing this down if you haven't already, because I see some pencils are not moving. Either you're a mind reader or you have this process down. Okay. So now, a lot of times you're going to have 21 here and 16 there, then you can finish it off. But in this case, can you do 16 minus 21 just the way it is up there?
Maybe.
No. Do you remember what you have to do?
Yeah, you just have to take 1 away from the
Nick, thank you. Because this is one of the things, listen, it's kind of cool. 8th grade, I have to go over this stuff. And the first year's 8th grade, very shaky on this, like struggling. Second year 8th grade, so last year's 8th grade, pretty good, but still they're kind of like looking at me like, I don't know what you're doing at all. And then you guys are telling me what to do. So that means you're getting it, which is very encouraging for me. I'm going to have to borrow from the whole number. If I take 1 away from 3, that gives me a 2, right?
Yeah.
But this is the part where a lot of people get tripped up. I have to add 1 over here, don't I? In what form? 24 over 24. And I'm writing this down because I want to help those who are like, I don't know what. So you see how I borrowed that 1 and made it 24 over 24? Is 24 over 24 1?
Yes.
Okay. The reason I did that is because now I can add these two This is like a review of all operations of fractions, I think, right? Okay, so what do I get? 40 24ths. Whew. Can I do 40 24ths minus 21 24ths? Yes. And what would that be? 19 24ths. All that to get that answer. But I also have to subtract the whole numbers, which 2 minus 1 is 1. That is my answer?
No.
Negative.
Oh, wait. Oh, yeah, from the previous screen, what was my estimate?
2. Negative.
Negative 2. Negative 1 and 19 24ths. What do you think? Are they pretty close?
Yeah.
Very close. Very close. 5 24ths away. Wow, you guys did pretty well. No people want to hurt me right now, which is always a good sign. Some people might be confused. That's okay, but you're not trying to. Notice I'm behind my podium right now. You're not trying to hurt me. Not that I'm scared at all. Just checking on the books to make sure they're good. Swivl, follow me. Please follow me. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna have to delete that part now too. Okay, because your parents are gonna think, is Mr. A really afraid of his students? Well, you should see their faces. Swivl, you want to show them? Ready, guys? Fix your hair.
Yeah.
All I had to do is push this button and it flips it.
Now we're scared of you.
Can you see me?
All the tables have talked about on the internet.
Now we're on the internet.
No, not yet. Not yet.
We're allowed to be on the internet.
Okay, oh man, so yeah, we'll have to edit that somehow. Okay, are you guys okay?
But you're distributing.
Are you guys okay semi with what we're doing, the thought process behind it, even though maybe the actual math is a little bit hard in some of those parts? You okay with subtract the greater absolute value? Sorry, technically you say it like this. You subtract the lesser from the greater and then keep the sign of the bigger absolute value. Okay. Subtracting. Okay, your book gives it in 2 parts. Subtracting numbers with like signs, subtracting numbers with unlike signs. I want to make it as simple as I can for you guys, so I'm going to just call it subtracting. And I put this little note, AKA adding. I want to make sure I put this adding the opposite. Does anyone remember that concept?
Yeah.
Oh my. The first day I introduced that to you guys in 7th grade, you didn't like, not only did you not like what I said, you did not like me for saying it. I could tell. And that's why I was like, I'm a little bit afraid. I had faces, I'm telling you guys, some of your faces were, some of you were just, and some of you were just, yeah, some of you were kind of like, you're in La La Land and everything's great. And I was kind of cool with that because you weren't mad at me. Okay, but anyway, let's work out a problem that would deal with this type. Negative 20.2 minus negative 7.33. This is a subtraction problem. It's between negative 20.2 and negative 7.33. Do you like your problems to be more difficult than they need to be, or less difficult than they need to be?
Less difficult.
Less difficult. So,
Are we only doing decimals?
Fractions too. Mixed numbers, yep. Same process. Okay, can we do this real quick? This is going to help you out. Let's estimate. What does negative 20.2 round to? Negative 20. Okay, that's a lot easier to deal with. And then minus, what does negative 7.33 round to? Negative 7. Okay, so let's do this process we're talking about, adding the opposite with those numbers. You can do that. You can do that, I hope, very well. Okay, do you guys remember that stay, change, opposite? Okay, Sarah, what would stay, change, opposite look like with this problem?
It would be negative 20 plus 7.
Mm-hmm. Negative 20 stayed the same. Instead of subtraction, what'd you do? Addition. And the opposite of negative 7 is positive 7. Now, if you were paying attention at all for the first part of our lesson, this is now an addition problem. Have we talked about addition problems?
Yeah.
You do the same thing you did on those last problems. So here, two numbers, opposite signs or unlike signs. 20 minus 7 is, and which sign does it keep? You guys okay with that? How many of you could do that? Like if I just gave you problems like that, you could do it? Stay, change, opposite, and then figure it out. Okay, good. If you can do this, apply it to this. Okay, ready? What would stay, change, opposite look like with this problem? With the actual problem? Nick? It will look like that. Yes, ma'am?
In this one, are we going to subtract the absolute value?
Yeah. So did you subtract? Technically, did you subtract the two absolute values? You did. Didn't you do 20 minus 7 to get 13? So you're going to do it up here too. Yep, you're going to do the same thing you did there. Okay, so you guys see how I got here? They look the same, just more decimals. Okay, then to actually show the work, what's the which one's the greater absolute value? So now I do this minus that. 20.2 minus 7.33. Mr. A, why did you make the decimals? Why did you move the number in that way? Why do they have to look like this? Nick? Line them up. Sorry, I'll scoot this up if I can. And then you subtract. In this case, you have to borrow. Okay, can I do that? Sorry, 0 minus 3? No, borrow. 10 minus 3? Yeah, 7. Okay, good job. Borrow from the 2, 1. 11 minus 3?
8.
Decimal point, don't forget them. 9 minus 7?
2.
1 minus 0?
1.
My answer is 12.87?
No, negative shell.
Okay. We have a lot of editing to do, Swivl, today. Okay. Does my actual answer fit with my estimate?
Yes.
They're very close. So please use estimates. They help you out. All right. I'll give you one more problem. The tougher of the two. Okay. You guys okay? I can move?
No.
Oh, man. Why did I ask? Okay.
I'm still alive, dude.
What?
Okay. Someone do your stay, change, opposite, please, Marissa.
Okay, so negative 2 3/5 plus positive 1 and a tenth.
1 and a tenth. And you can estimate here or you can estimate here. So let's just do that real quick. What is negative 2 and 3/5 about?
2 and 6.
Oh, sorry. What's this to the nearest integer? What's the nearest integer that would go?
Negative 3.
Negative 3. Negative 3. What would 1 and 1/10 round to?
1.
1. What's negative 3 plus 1? Okay, you see how this is easy? Like that? I wish I had those. Do you know why we had you learn that last year? Is because you're ready for this year. Because now if you can estimate, you can see my answer, that's totally wrong. Or my answer, that looks pretty good. So that helps you out. Okay, who can walk me through what I need to do here? Because I'm kind of confused. All these rules and signs and adding and subtracting. It's a lot to go on. Good, I'll have you three right here. First step, Davis, first step.
2 and 3/5
Minus 1 and 1/10. Okay. Sarah, next step.
Since you can't do 3/5 like minus 1/10 because they don't have the same denominator, you multiply it by 2/2 and you get 2 and 6 tenths.
6/10. Okay, good. Thank you. Next step, Marissa.
Okay, so you do 6 tenths minus 1 and 1/10, so you get 5 tenths.
Okay, so thankfully, did we have to do any borrowing this time? No. Be thankful. No borrowing. We're good. And then what's 2 minus 1? 1. Okay. Oh, negative.
100.
Circle it? Oh, I forgot to box it in. I'm so sorry.
No, reduce it. No, you're
Yeah, reduce fractions. What's 5/10 really?
1/2.
So I get negative 1 and a half. Oops, negative 1 and 1/2.
Negative 1 and 1.
And that is accurate with my estimate. So do you always have to borrow? So that first problem we did, where we had to borrow, do we always have to do that borrowing? No. So enjoy those. But if you do, we're ready for it. I can go over it. Let me go over it. Let me give them something. Yep.
Well, if you would say like 1/2 is 1/3, would you just go out 1 second?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's just the way we say things. You could say that, but you see how for us 1 second means like 1 second, like time. So that's probably why we don't say 1
So it's
second.
1/2. 1/2.
1/2, yeah.
But then you can see 3/2.
Deep questions I'm getting here. Okay. You guys, at least okay with that? I'll give you some practice with this homework. You guys did well, guys. Overall, you were, for the most part, looking at me or the board or your paper and writing something. And then you ask questions when you need it. And now's the time where you can work on them and you can ask questions again because I'll be around. I think I'll stick around for a while. And I can help you out as best I can. So 2 to 28 even, and then number 30. And that's pages 5 through 6.
I wonder why.
I think you should just try and film the other class because you're just going to have to cut out.
What a great idea.
30 minutes.